Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great and festive show for you today. That's right, Niall. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate.
We're just bringing a bit of festive cheer to it all. Look at all these flowers and everything.
They can see it. Yeah, I think when they're zooming in and out, they could see the Christmas.
But yes,
kit lovingly assembled.
We're getting into the Christmas. Even our big beautiful bowl has like festive little baubles around it and things. Amazing.
You did Rising on Friday with our friend Drew.
I did.
Heard, because they were not able to awaken me.
They were not. Poor Amber fell ill overnight. And I don't know, had you been out carousing again?
Yes, I told Louis he would have to come to my apartment and bang down my door if he would like me to wake up at a rising time on a non-rising day.
I do understand that, yes. And Drew did very well. Coming up on Rising, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene detailed to CBS's 60 Minutes how President Trump was furious with her over her support for releasing the Epstein files.
Plus, after issuing Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar a pardon, the president lashed out at him over his decision to run for re-election as a Democrat.
And a State Department official took to X to criticize a supposed free speech crackdown in Europe. But I'll be arguing that issue is far more nuanced and complicated, and I'll be doing that in my notes today. But first of all, Robby, what's on your radar?
Let's get to it. Representative Ilhan Omar is speaking out regarding the massive welfare fraud that occurred in Minnesota, her home state, under the watch of Governor Tim Walz. Because the vast majority of the fraudsters are Somalis, and because Ilhan Omar is herself a member of that community, well, she appeared on Face the Nation over the weekend to answer questions about the accusations made by many conservatives. Trump administration figure Stephen Miller, for one, has said in the wake of the scandal that the entire Somali refugee program is predicated on a lie. Destroying your own country does not give you the right to become a citizen in ours. Miller, of course, would like to have no immigration from the third world whatsoever. But here is what Omar said about the welfare fraud scandal.
Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset.
Look, I don't know. If I was her, this is what I would have said. I'm outraged that anyone in my community would pilfer from the public. I want all the perpetrators brought to justice. They are giving us a bad name, and I won't stand for it. That's what I would have said. Moving on, next, Margaret Brennan asked Omar about whether the money had been sent overseas to fund terrorism.
How confident are you that that's a false claim?
I'm pretty confident at the moment because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our court system in not figuring that out and basically charging them with these charges.
Really? She's going to begin by indicting law enforcement? Now, I should be clear that the authorities have not verified that the money sent overseas made its way into the hands of any terrorist groups, particularly Al-Shabaab, as alleged by conservative writer Christopher Rufo, who was the journalist who broke the fraud story in the first place. But the authorities have only recovered about $50 million of the estimated $1 billion that was stolen. Again, here's what Omar should have said. I am aware of allegations that the money went to a terrorist group, and I support the federal government fully investigating this. It's unacceptable that a single cent of stolen taxpayer money be sent anywhere abroad, and I will do everything in my power to make sure my constituents are made whole. Now, you're probably wondering, am I looking for a job as a speechwriter for Ilhan Omar? In fact, I am not. Obviously, she can speak for herself. I am speaking, actually, as someone who does not appreciate the casual racism being lobbed against innocent Somali immigrants. The focus of the welfare abuse story should be the failures of the Tim Walz administration. Walz, you may recall, was Kamala Harris's choice for vice president. He's demonstrating just what a disastrous vice president he would have been. It's been reported, not just by conservative writers, but also by the New York Times, that he ignored whistleblower complaints about rampant abuse of welfare because it was a pandemic, and he thought, well, it would be too heartless to ask questions. Of course, that's the kind of leadership that allows thieves to flourish. Now he's facing a total collapse in confidence of his governance, even as he seeks a third gubernatorial term. If Republicans remain focused on what a bad job he's doing, maybe they could even dethrone Walz. Or maybe this will just be part of their case come midterms or the next presidential election, that the Democratic Party is not fit to actually govern, that they're weak on fraud, that they can't be trusted with public funds. If this becomes just about racism against Somalis or accusing all foreigners of being bad people, this is quickly going to become a losing issue for the right. Yes, I know it's very popular for some reason on social media to routinely disparage all immigrants from the third world as some kind of drain on our country. Look, I won't even bother trying to convince people who harbor those actually racist views against Somalis that they're in the wrong, because it will likely be a fruitless exercise. But conservative pundits who actually have an interest in retaining power and winning elections should stick to criticism of what I described, Democratic governance, Tim Walz, not stigmatizing all immigrants. Even if Ilhan Omar's very basic inability to react to this scandal with anything approaching a savvy PR response makes it very, very tempting to go in the wrong direction, please don't do that.
Interesting stuff, Robby. As you would expect, there's parts of it that I agree with, and parts of it I don't.
My invective against racism, I suspect you agree with.
I do strongly agree with that. I was going to interject when you said that you're not planning to be Ilhan Omar's speechwriter. That would be a job to which I would be much more suited, I think.
I think so.
No squad member left behind.
I think so.
On here. Look, as far as the fraud's concerned, that fraud is wrong. It is serious. There's one woman who apparently is planning to plead guilty who herself defrauded around $14 million. That's wrong in itself. It's a problem for the welfare system in Minnesota, and there are certainly political questions to be asked of Tim Walz. Kidding aside, I do appreciate you calling out the racism that has been directed at the Somali community and the attempt by some to kind of collectivize guilt in that respect. What I would say is it's not only a matter of people in the sort of nether worlds of social media. President Trump is referring to Somalis as garbage. That is a racist attempt to blanket a term across an entire group of people. There are others in the conservative movement, including people who hold elected office, doing the same thing. Briefly on the point that you first raised about how Omar answered those questions, and the first one, which was talking about Somalis being victims. To my mind, what she was trying to do there, I think fairly enough, was to get away from this perception that there are regular Minnesotan folks here and Somali folks here, and these people are, as a group, defrauding these people. And so she was talking about the fact that there are obviously lots of members of the Somali community who could have benefited and did benefit legitimately from those programs, who are now, firstly under an unwarranted cloud of suspicion, but also deprived of the benefits of money that for those people to whom it could genuinely have helped.
Right. And I think the reason this story is resonating, because I understand some people will say, oh, okay, this is a group of, I think largely second-generation immigrants. Most of the people involved were, their parents had come over. They were, one generation removed from the immigrant experience, and a large amount of fraud in this community. How could people come to our country, or their recent ancestors come to our country, and then rob us blind? And that makes people angry, and I understand that anger. It's helpful to keep in mind that this is not the first time welfare fraud has been committed. It has been committed by every class of people, from the poorest of the poor to the CEOs of large corporations, that in my mind is no less fraudulent when they get bailed out for their bad behavior. I was on the two-way show that I do with a bunch of people from across the political spectrum, including Nina Turner, who has a very progressive left viewpoint. She was pointing out, we were talking to a caller, and who was very upset about the story and saying, well, are you upset that the Pentagon has failed however many audits in a row? Think of the hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars that they've lost, that they've just misplaced. Same taxpayer money, gone, or maybe it was used to buy weapons that are sitting unused in Eastern Europe or in the Middle East to fall into the hands of a hostile foreign power or a terrorist group. Are you exercised about that? And the caller said, well, yes, of course. So I think it's maybe helpful to explain to people that it's not just this one group of interlopers who have done this. It's unfortunately far too common, and we have far too few elected officials who are paying close enough attention to it.
Absolutely. And just before we wrap, I do want to defend Omar in a separate clip from the ones we played that's causing a lot of controversy, where she compared Stephen Miller's rhetoric to the dehumanization of practiced by the Nazis. I think that a lot of the rhetoric used in that respect is very redolent of that othering of people and suggesting that society's been hollowed out from within.
You note that I didn't select that clip to play criticize.
I did.
For that reason.
Exactly. And I thought, to your credit.
Up next, President Trump is lashing out at a Democratic Congressman, Henry Cuellar, after pardoning him. We'll be right back.